All right. So hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to the Russ Brown Motorcycle Attorneys YouTube. My name is Olivia, and I'm connected today with Kevin Baas. So how's it going? It's been a while since we have talked to you. I know you're doing a lot. You're a teacher by day, a metal fabricator by night, a bike builder, entrepreneur. So you're doing a lot of stuff. So how's it going, Kevin?
We always say there's not enough hours in a day. There's so much going on, but time flies when you're having fun, and we got a lot of cool projects. And since last time we talked, it's been a long time, but I still love teaching, still doing what I do, and going to work every day, just enjoying it and helping kids find their passion. Teaching them neat stuff that they can do with their hands and showing them they can be successful. And my side business has grown. I think since last time we talked, I actually moved, so we're out in the country now. We got some acreage and a big shop, so things have been going in the right direction. Hard work does pay off, and I'm still at it hard. And, every day I just appreciate the opportunity to do what I do. And I look forward to the next day to do something even better and help all my students and my family and all my friends just, live life to its fullest. It's been such a tough time with COVID and the pandemic, and, there's a lot of negative energy in the air. And, the only way we're going to fix that is by, starting to spread positive energy, and looking forward.
Yeah, that's so true. And obviously you're keeping busy. And I think that's the best medicine for life, for a good life anyways, keeping busy, doing something you like. And you're obviously doing that. So you've been teaching for decades at this point, and you also love motorcycles. Pardon me?
28 years, I think I'm on now.
So we're heading into your third decade. That's pretty awesome. So you obviously love motorcycles because, this is why we're connecting. This is Russ Brown, Motorcycle Attorneys. So let's talk a bit about how you got into motorcycles and where your love came from that. And also tell me a little bit about how you got into metal fabrication.
Sure. All that stems right back to my family. I grew up, my father was a sheet metal worker. My mom and dad had a passion for Harleys. They rode. My mom still rides. My dad still rides. And, when I was in high school, shop was my favorite class of the day. I didn't really look forward to going to sit in a class where I had to hear lecture all hour. I wanted to be working with my hands and building stuff and doing stuff. And at home on my family farm, I'd be working with my dad. He'd have me building stuff, go-karts, mini bikes, working on things. And I just learned that that's kind of what makes me happy. And that's what I want to do with my life. And one of the things I always tell my students is I don't want you to find a job. You never want a job where you're hitting snooze 20 times, like, oh, I got to get up and go do this job. Boo. I want them to find a career that they love. So it's like, man, I can't wait to get to my career today because we're doing this, this, and this, and with what I learned in high school and through my family, it was like, I'm a hands-on kind of guy. I love building, making, doing, seeing sparks. I'm ADHD, so I can't sit still, which I think makes me a great teacher because I relate to my students. And, it blossomed from there. My parents supported me to follow my dreams and do what I want to do. And I went to college to be a teacher. And, 28 years later, I still love it. I'm very passionate about it. I'm excited to still be able to do it. I turned 50 this May now, so I'm getting to be that old man kind of era, and I'm looking towards retirement. But yet at the same time, I don't really want to retire. So it's like, okay, I can still do this. And the metal fabrication just came as a part of what I was doing as a teacher. I was teaching my students engineering and problem solving skills and critical thinking. And let's take a dream in your head and create it and make it come alive, and it's all about dreams coming alive and showing these kids that if you put your mind to it, you work hard and you believe in yourself, and you have somebody like myself that believes in them and other people around you that are positive, you can accomplish anything. There's nothing that you can't do. And I just hope I can have those kids go on and preach that to the next generation when I'm long gone.
I love that. And I feel like you obviously have a real love for teaching. And, coming from, I think most people can probably point out one shitty teacher they've had. So the fact that you are the opposite of that, I think you'll always be that teacher they'll remember. And especially because you're teaching really cool things. So you were saying you have been teaching for almost 30 years, and you started one of the first chopper build classes in I think ever. And
Yeah.
talk to me a bit about that chopper class that's been going on for over 20 years now, or just about 20 years. So how did you come up with the curriculum for this? How did you come up with the idea? Talk to me about that.
Well, a lot of things I do in life and with my teaching, I look at necessity. Like, what do you need? What do we need to do to get better at stuff? And
Mhm.
with my metal fabrication class and welding, we do a lot of just straight welding because obviously you got to just weld and do the work and run the beads. And do all that, but it can get kind of boring for kids. And it's like, what can you do to incorporate all that welding now and that metal fab stuff and do something really cool? Like,
Mhm.
everybody remembers that was in shop building a toolbox or a birdhouse, and it was like boring, like, okay. And when I got into teaching, I was like, I took over a program that had all the patterns for a little toolbox and the patterns for a little birdhouse. And we still did it to get the experience. But then I started telling myself, like, there's got to be a better way. Cause if I'm bored teaching it, they're super bored trying to learn it, and I don't want that. So I was like, what can I do to spark some excitement and just come up with something is revolutionary and hasn't been done? I don't like to follow what other people have done. I always felt like I want to do something different. So even
Mhm.
with the bikes I build, like I don't look at other people's bikes and try to copy anything. Like actually at a lot of shows, like I walk around and look at bikes because I appreciate it, but I don't look too close because I'm just, it's like, what, that's their style. I see what the bike looks like. That's cool. But, I'm not about trying to find something that I can copy or steal. I want to come up with my own ideas. And really, it doesn't have to be overdone, in this day and age. There's so many people that are trying so hard to get their name and their bikes out there by doing just crazy, crazy things, which I appreciate it. It's really amazing. But at the end of the day, I want a bike that you can ride and get on and go and not have to worry about being all worried about it because it's, everything's on pins and needles. And, with what I teach the kids now, it's, work hard, put your passion into it, believe in what you do, and just, give it 100% and good things will happen.
So with the curriculum that you put out originally, did you then did you have to sit down with the board? Did you have to get things approved? How did that process go?
Yeah, that was, obviously anything you do with kids and classes and giving them credit towards graduation, you have to be approved by the boards and everything. So it starts out with a process. You just talk to them about what's your curriculum guides, what do I need to cover? And then you just start writing from there and you just fill in the blanks, and how do I include STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, math? Well, you look at a custom built chopper, it's got all that in there, because we talk about math with the engineering and different rake and trail and degrees and this and that and gear ratios and science and the stuff like different types of fluids, of oil viscosities and things like that. And the engineering aspect, how to make a bike that's going to function well and the front end's not going to flop on you and it's not going to bounce you off when you hit a pothole.
Mhm.
And so the technology piece now, like I'm able to help have my kids include CNC plasma cutters, water jet cutters. They TIG weld, MIG weld, and use CAD software. So it's a way to take that STEM now and just make it blossom. And when I went to the board with what I was going to do, they were all about it. They saw everything that I had laid out, and it was a no brainer that it was just a great idea, and it covered all the bases for what education needs with kids to learn in a class like mine. And it went from there. So um, a lot of schools I shared it with. I tried to help other schools get it going. Unfortunately, not many were able to sustain it. It is a tough sell, and you got to be passionate. You got to be a motorcyclist to want to do it because it is a lot of your own personal time. Traveling, going to shows, shaking hands, trying to find sponsors, and I give anybody that's out there, even now, if they're interested, they have a shop teacher, or you are a shop teacher, or a shop teacher that is looking for something in a metals engineering type class, let them, have them get a hold of me because I'd love to share what I've done. And, when I retire, I hope it doesn't die. I hope other schools, can keep it going and kids can keep benefiting from it.
That's really great. So it sounds like, you've really established a community that's keeping this going. And also too, I mean, it takes a village to raise a child, as they say, and your village was your family who taught you how to build bikes, how to use metal and all of this sort of stuff, even got you into the world of motorcycles. So can you talk to me about the importance of community and collaboration within the motorcycle building class that you started? And how have you seen this play out in the classroom, just with the students themselves?
you know, the camaraderie piece is huge. When I first started doing the bikes, we had this chopper class challenge, it was called, to try to get other schools involved. And that was kind of short lived because, honestly, I didn't create any of this to make it a competition. You know, I want it to be that camaraderie. There's no winner, there's no loser. So, like, next week we'll be at the Donnie Smith Bike Show. My students will have their bikes there, and we're not done with them. I mean, quite frankly, we're not, and I don't care. I'm happy with what we've gotten accomplished. I tell the students we're not going to cut corners. We're not going to do things half-heartedly just to get it done in time to say, hey, it's going in a show and it's done. That's not fair to anybody.
Mhm.
So what I love is we bring bikes, some of them are only halfway done, but then the crowd can see, they actually see like the nuts and bolts and the nitty gritty, and they can see the unpainted gas tank that the kids created from scratch, and they can see the seat pan that's not covered yet. But the kids can tell them, yeah, I made this, and here's how I did it. So it's pretty cool because we've had really nice done bikes that have won shows, and we've showed up with just a pile of parts and an idea. And either way, I'm happy. I just, for me, it's all about getting the kids there to get the exposure with the community, have that camaraderie, and show people what you're doing and what are you learning. And these kids will walk home with a stack of business cards from all kinds of businesses that come to that show. When they see what these kids are doing and their passion, they're like, I want to hire you. Like, I need 20 of you for my company. So the camaraderie and the community and the love for it has been great. I really make sure that we're respectful and that we feel fortunate for what we do. We don't take it for granted, and we appreciate everybody who's behind us on it. Especially, you guys, Russ Brown, have been behind me forever, helped sponsor me when I was building for Born Free Bikes in California and everything. And that's a love that never gets lost. Like, even now we're reconnecting after all these years, and it feels like we're just picking up where we left off and we haven't missed a beat. So
Yeah, I love that. I love that really. I love that so much. And you've been doing this for a while and you've created so many bikes. I mean, with your class and then also on your own. So you know what you're doing. You've been in the industry for a while. So, talk to me about what, in your opinion, of course, what makes a great chopper design and how do you incorporate that idea into your builds?
sure. It's all about flow, form, function.
Mhm.
These bikes have to be ridden. They have to be safe. I mean, yeah, there's a fine line of, oh, that's not safe, but it's cool and we'll run it, like a spool front wheel with no brake. Yeah, it's not the most safe thing because, front brake's your most stopping power on a motorcycle. But some bikes, it looks better with that clean look. And with our bikes and our builds and my whole life, it's always been about, I need to be able to get on this thing and I want to be able to ride it to California tomorrow and not worry about anything. And it's a testament to how you build the bike to make sure you're doing things right, not cutting the corners. The engineering piece, like, we study engineering, my students learn about the engineering design process and critical thinking and problem solving, and we make mistakes. But the good thing about it is, what I tell them is there's no such thing as a failure. It's just a stepping stone to success.
Mhm.
And I still make mistakes, and I tell my students, when you make a mistake, you don't throw your hands up and throw the tools down and walk away and say, I'm done, I quit. You stop, you analyze what happened, why did it happen, how can I change it now and do it again and be successful. So all my students learn that from me, that you're going to be successful. I'm not going to give up on you, and you don't give up on yourself, and you'll get it.
Okay, so it's the grit that's really gonna take you to the end of any build. I think because nothing's obviously easy, especially with chopper builds for sure. So, how has your approach changed with building motorcycles, and how has it evolved over the years? And what lessons have you learned along the way, other than just like not giving up? Like, what are some technical maybe things that you've learned, or how you've changed your approach completely than you did in the beginning?
Well, engineering's always evolving, always changing, and if you don't keep up with the times, you'll be obsolete yourself, So you always want to learn. And like I tell the students, like a lot of the bikes I have are 30s and 40s and 50s old Harleys, and the technology back then wasn't near what it is today. And some of the newer bikes that they build in class have that new technology. So it's fun to kind of compare and contrast and see, like, how have clutches, evolved, and chains, like O-ring chains compared to the old style diamond chains that you'd use. And how have the motors changed, with companies like coming out with replica motors that look like an old knucklehead or a panhead, but it's all brand new billet aluminum with really great technology. So, with our bikes evolving, it's just all about, trying to find what's the best piece that's going to fit that bike, but also be the most safe and, up to standards. Cause you don't want to put, there's a lot of like old swap meet parts I find that I love. I think this is the coolest piece ever, but I wouldn't trust riding a bike with it on because it's probably going to fail. It's just, you could just tell by looking at the welds and how it was made. But there's a big fine line with the way I've built now, that I learned a lot and I've ridden a lot. I've put on miles across the country on these old bikes. So I really put my emphasis into making sure, now I know stuff that fails on bikes if it's done wrong, and I know parts and components that'll go wrong if you don't take care of them. And so I really focus on making sure those little checklists of mine are checked off before I call a bike truly done and I'm ready to take it out and test ride it.
Okay. And so you have your ways. You've been doing this for a while. So I would love for you to share what you're currently working on um, in your shop right now. Talk to us about that. What's
Sure.
the latest and greatest?
Well, we got quite a bit going on in my personal shop here. Kind of an exciting thing that happened is, a couple years ago, Jason Momoa spent a couple days in my shop here. We filmed some Harley Davidson videos. And when he was here, we were talking about, my previous builds, and he was looking at my wall with all my magazine articles and stuff. And we started talking about my first panhead. The first big twin bike I built was a 1957 panhead. And that was actually one of them I did with my students way back in the early days to get this whole class going. And Jay was real passionate about hearing the story. And he kept kind of going, man, that's a kind of a bike you really need it. It should be here for your kids to have someday, hand it down. Like, I built 30, 40 bikes, but that was my first. It's kind of like, it's kind of a shame you don't have that one to have a history lesson on. Well, it just so happened that I knew, my friend Josh Arment that owns a Lowell Monkey Tattoo, does all my tattoo work. He had bought it from me.
Okay.
And he was thinking about selling it, and he had offered it to me a few times. I just didn't have the money, and yeah, I wanted it back really bad. But for me as a teacher, like if I see something I really want, it's like, okay, how much do you want for it? I'm like, well, here's how much I got. Can you hold on to it for X amount, so I got to sell this and build that and try to do this to come up with the rest of the money. And so it was kind of in my sights to get it back. Well, then Jay, said, hey, I'd like to buy this bike, and I'm like, well, that's cool. I don't have the money, so be it. He needs to sell it. You're up, so you can buy it. So he ended up buying it sight unseen. And I went and got it, brought it home here. And as soon as he saw it, he was kind of blown away. Like, I've seen that bike before. Like, where have I seen that bike? And before I could even finish saying, I wrote a book, and all of a sudden he said, how to build an old school bobber. I'm like, yeah. He goes, that's it. That's it. He goes, I used that book. So he had bought my book and Billy Lane's book to build his first panhead for his first movie he directed ever, which is Road Diploma. So it was like, holy cow, this is crazy. Well, then, his camera crew, everybody's like, holy crap, yeah, that's the book you used, Jay. And it's like, well, that's the guy that wrote it, and we're here at his house, and they didn't even know that coming here. So it was just crazy. Like all these weird things were happening. And then he says, you know what, this is too crazy. He's like, asked my son, my middle son, Gavin, who was riding a Sportster right now. And he says, sit on your dad's first panhead. And Gavin sat on it, and he had myself and my wife and him, and we stood by, and he had his camera crew come in. He says, I'm going to start a story right now, and we'll finish it when he turns 19, because he was 16 at the time. And he says, when you turn 19, Gavin, he says, I'm going to give you your dad's first panhead, and it's going to be yours to keep, free. And we're like blown away, like, holy cow. And
Wow.
just coincidentally, it got dropped off today. So it's like, it's sitting right next to me right now. And my son hasn't come home he's in the track right now, practice. But when he gets home from track practice tonight, I'm going to come in here and surprise him and show him what got delivered and is waiting in the shop for him.
Wow, that's such a great story, and I love how we're connecting today. When you got it, feel free to pan over it if you like. If
Yeah, it's a little work in progress. Again, the gas tank's missing off of it right now. It's hanging on the wall, and the fender's missing. But it's a 1957 panhead, nice little chopper. A little mismatch. It was the first one I did, so there's things that will change, and it'll actually be fun because it'll be a good father-son project for us. And I can say, all right, Gavin, like, look at all the stuff I did back in the day, when I wasn't much older than you. And now I realizing stuff on it that I already know, like, oh, I got to change that. We're going to fix that. And we're going to do this differently. So it is a lot more safe. So that's a big one that's happening. My wife rides a 1947 Knucklehead. That's on the lift over here. She blew a head gasket. So I'm going to replace the head gaskets for her and get this thing back in action. But
right on.
it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool to see, a little 100-pound blonde driving an old 47 Knucklehead ripping down the road. So I
That's
got the heads
awesome.
off it right now. Then I got a 1942 UL flathead motor that I'm going to be starting to build with.
Mhm.
And, I picked that up at Mama Tried the other month when I was in Milwaukee. And that one here, the motor's all freshly rebuilt. So I gotta get ready to start figuring out what I want to build with it, what kind of chassis, what kind of style it's going to be. So that's pretty exciting. And then I got a 1946 Knucklehead that I just was finishing up for Mama Tried. That's actually at school with my students right now. We're going to kind of do a few things of that and get it ready for the Donnie Smith show. And then I have a 1958 panhead, which is actually my second panhead I ever built. And hopefully it doesn't get too loud. You were going in my shop. But the Harley Davidson Museum is going to pick this bike up for me soon, and this one's going to be in the Harley Museum for like a year and a half with the Mama Tried exhibit.
Wow,
So
that's
that's pretty
awesome.
exciting. And then I got my 39 knucklehead here, tetanus. We call it tetanus because it's such a greasy, oily old thing. It looks like you need a tetanus shot to get on it. Kind of a fun name for it, but that's my race bike that I race in the winter on the ice and summers. And I got some bikes up on the lift behind me. There's OK model, and my boys have some Ironhead Sportsters, and I got a knucklehead Zeus up there, and then I got my 47 with the sidecar. That one I actually rode all the way to California on for Born Free 3. So lots going on. It's crazy. We got our plasma table. We do all custom fabrication on that, cut steel, make signs. My wife and I are kind of partners on that. And, so like I tell my students, like the stuff I'm teaching in class, like I'm doing this at home on my own too. And, it's fun for me to take my real world experiences and what I do with it and show them how to, you don't have to be a full-time welder fabricator if you don't want to be. If you can learn these skills, you can do it as a hobby. I teach full-time, come home. I got my own shop now. I got my own side business here to help me, if I want to buy another, truck or car project, it's like, well, my teaching salary is paying the normal bills. What am I going to do? Well, let's make some signs and let's figure out a way to make it happen. So, it's a good way to show people you don't have to be rich to be successful and be happy and get what you want, but you do got to be ready to get off your butt and work hard and put in the time, and then good things will happen and you'll get what you want and your goals will be accomplished if you set your goals high and you just go for them and don't let people say no.
Yeah, and that's really great advice that you're giving your students. And it's clear that it's working for you. I mean, you said that you started a little design type shop with your wife, and it's called Little Fish Designs, right? So
Yep.
that's been going on for a little while. So I'm curious to know. So you've had a successful career as a motorcycle builder and an educator as well, but are there any other areas within the motorcycle industry that you would like to explore in the future?
um Gosh, I guess at this point the future, the near future is kind of, I don't know what's going to happen with where it goes. So I don't have anything right now that I'm grasping for. You'd be like, I haven't done that yet. I need to do that. I've done most. I mean, there's some motorcycle rallies I haven't been to yet across the country that I'd like to see. And honestly, I'm kind of waiting until I retire because with my kids are still in high school and they're doing a lot of activities here. I don't want to miss that stuff because it goes by too fast.
Mm.
And when the kids were really young, I did travel a lot and I was gone a lot, for different events and rallies. And I was at almost everything. Everybody was inviting me to be a judge and a builder and you name it, at everywhere. And I knew I had to do it to get my name out there. But now that I kind of got that I wouldn't say fan base, but just people that know what I do and believe in what I do and support what I do, I was able to kind of step back a little bit and just focus more on my family and getting myself into this property because every time you take a trip, it's expensive, and for me, like if I'm saving up to buy a 10-acre property with a big shop but I'm spending all my money every month going on bike trips and going to rallies, you're never going to get that goal. So I had to kind of say, hey, I'm going to take a little hiatus from the shows and just focus on getting my family to the property where we want to be. And we've done that now. We're in our forever home, we call this. It's a nice 10-acre place. It's got the big shop and we love it here, love the community. And I got about 7 years probably till I can retire. And not that I will, but when I get to that point, then like I tell my wife, I said, then, once I'm retired again and the boys are all out of the house and doing their own thing, like, we can start traveling again, start hitting some more shows. And, I love going to the shows because there's so many friends and family and faces and people and, and shaking hands with long lost brothers that I haven't seen forever that I miss. And, it's been such a great adventure for me because I have so many friends in every state across the country and the world, and even overseas. I've got friends that are inviting me over to come over for shows. So I'm hoping that I can just, get retired, get comfortable that way, and then just start getting back on the path where I show my face at a lot more things and be there for the different events and, see what the up and comers are doing and help support everybody.
Okay, that's great. And congratulations on your, the the business that you started with your wife and your new home. It just seems like your life has been progressing since we last sat down with you. So that's awesome to hear. And just to end off, this is my last question. I would love to hear, what advice would you give someone who is just starting out in the custom motorcycle industry?
Well, the biggest thing I would say right off the bat is just remember you're not going to get rich quick off it. You may never get rich. Most don't. Back in the heyday when all the motorcycle shows were on and people were, traveling and there was these huge trailers with $1 million, rolling displays and things, and bikes were selling for hundreds of thousands of dollars. Those days are long gone. So get in it because you love it. Don't get in it because you're just trying to make money off it. If you're doing it because it's going to pay your bills, be ready to be eating PB&J and macaroni and cheese, because it's not going to be a steak and lobster kind of career path. But if you love it, fine. You don't need to make a lot of money to be happy, and just like with teaching, I don't make a ton of money, but I love what I do. So I do it, and I'm not never going to complain about what I chose as a path. But for new builders, the biggest thing is that, and just to say, like be real, be yourself. Don't get into it because you're just trying to jump into somebody else's shoes. If you saw somebody on TV or at a show and you're like, I want to be like that guy, well, unless you truly 100% have it in your soul, it's not going to work out. Do what you love. But if bikes are what you love and you've always been tinkering and it's what you want to do, then build bikes that are you. Make your bike stand out, not by trying to do super crazy gaudy things and weird things, but build a good bike that just represents your style, your love and the way you do things, and it'll take off. People will start to appreciate it. It's real easy for these here today, gone tomorrow builders to come and go, and it happens a lot. We've seen it through the years. The biggest truck and the hugest trailer and the biggest display of everything, and all of a sudden next year, where are those guys? Oh yeah, they went bankrupt because they took out all these loans and couldn't sell a bike. So they're bankrupt. And it's like, just start small, work your way up by working hard.
Okay, that's great advice. So again, Kevin, thank you so much for connecting with me today. And you're giving us a wealth of great knowledge and information. So thank you so much. I really appreciate your
Yeah.
time today. Good luck with all those builds. I mean, you have so many that will keep you busy for 10 years, man. So
Yeah, it's gonna keep me way past retirement, so I'm excited. And with my boys getting into them, I'll have a lot of father son stuff, and hopefully someday grandkids that I can share my knowledge with and build bikes with, and keep my students going. I have a lot of students now that come back years and years later that are riding and building stuff and doing things, and it's so fun to see, and like you say, I want to be that teacher reminded, not because it was the worst one they hated, but they're the favorite one. And so far, I think I'm on a pretty good track record, because I have not yet had a student come back and say, "Oh, I remember you. You were terrible." Everybody's always like, "Oh man, this is my favorite class, and thanks for everything." And so if I can keep that going, I'm gonna die a happy man.
that's awesome. Well, thank you again. And we'll catch you next time. Looking forward to seeing all the great things you're doing next time.
Yeah, and I appreciate you all. And Russ Brown, anybody out there needs attorneys, they're the way to go. They've been great to me and helped me out, and I appreciate it always. And you're good people, and thanks for all you do.
Of course. Thank you so much. Take care.